Hey everyone, welcome once again to the live cast. I'm Howard Tiersky, and I have an interesting topic to talk about today, which is what is a digital transformation agency? I just found out that a magazine has named my company one of the top 10 digital transformation agencies, or most promising or most recommended digital transformation agencies, something like that. My company, by the way, is from the Digital Transformation Agency. And it got me thinking about something because actually I guess it's about 6 or 7 years ago now, we actually renamed our company and created that tagline for ourselves, the Digital Transformation Agency. And when we did that, there weren't a lot of other companies. I don't know that anyone was really using this term, Digital Transformation Agency. I'm not saying we invented it. Someone else may have been using it. I don't know, but it wasn't a common thing. And so back then I got this question a lot. Well, what is a digital transformation agency? And one thing that's interesting now is we've got magazines making lists of the top digital transformation agencies. So it's kind of interesting to me that phrase has really caught on. It made a lot of sense to us at the time. So I thought I'd spend a few minutes talking about what do we mean? What is a digital transformation agency? Why would you want one? How is it different from an ad agency or just a general digital agency? And if you're looking for one, what are some of the things you really want to look for in being able to have a good choice for a digital transformation agency? So I'm going to flip over to my slides here for a second. And while I'm doing that, Caitlin, am I coming through okay? It's kind of jerky on my screen, but does it look okay to you?
You're a little jerky to me, but I thought it was just...
Yeah, my wife tells me that all the time, but Okay, well, I don't know.
I can hear you fine.
Okay. All right. Well, then we'll just keep on going. Hang on one second. I'm not on the right of my Google Slides here. Too many tabs open, as you always tell me, Caitlin. So I'm finding the right one. Where the heck is it? I know I'm sharing it. Sorry, everybody. Just give me one more minute, and I will have my you-know-what together. Google Slides. Have I said, no, that's... I think maybe Google Slides changed it. All right, there we go. Now we're in the right spot. All right. So there we go. So as I mentioned, my company from the Digital Transformation Agency, this is our logo and tagline. And now people are talking about digital transformation agencies as if it's a generic thing. So first of all, what is a digital transformation agency? Well, let me just kind of break that even term down for a second. First of all, there's digital transformation. Well, as you guys know, I always talk about this, but I'll just quickly restate it for those that aren't regularly on the live cast. To me, what digital transformation really is two things. The world is changing rapidly around us, and customers are becoming more digitally centric all the time. I'm sure you see that. I'm sure they see that in your own life, and COVID has only further accelerated that. So that's what I call the digital transformation of the world. And so when you talk about working with a company on digital transformation, you're really asking yourself the question, is that company keeping up with the expectations and needs of customers whose lives are becoming increasingly digitally centric? Because the way you are loved by customers is to fulfill their needs. And if their needs are digital and you're not getting there as well as your competitors are, then obviously you have a risk. And we've seen many brands who have fallen in recent years, in part because they haven't been able to successfully compete with companies that were more kind of pure digital at their core. So that's what we mean when we talk about, or at least what I mean when I talk about digital transformation. So then what do we mean by a digital transformation agency? Well, loosely speaking, obviously it's a company that works with you and your brand and your company on supporting digital transformation. But this word agency I find always very interesting. And I remember when we named ourselves the Digital Transformation Agency, when this term wasn't so widely used, there was a lot of internal debate about whether we should call ourselves an agency or not. Because, if you think about that term, where it comes from originally, a lot of people think of ad agencies. And, why do ad agencies call themselves ad agencies, at least historically? Well, the same reason that insurance agencies call themselves insurance agencies, because they are an agent of whoever's selling advertising, right? They're an agent of a magazine. They're an agent of television stations who want to sell advertising, and they are selling it to you. Now, of course, if you're an ad agency, you're working with your clients and developing their ads, but ultimately that's where that word agency comes from. They're essentially representing, as a sales channel, sources, media that's selling advertising. Or obviously, it's even more obvious in the case of an insurance agent. If you're an Allstate insurance agent, you are an agent not of your customer, you are an agent of Allstate. So this use of the word agent, where you're the agent of this party that's selling something, that's not the way I like to think of the kind of agency we are. I like to think of us a little bit more like a travel agency, only in the sense that, the goal of digital transformation is to help get you from wherever you are as an organization to where you need to be. And that's actually why we called our company From. And while travel agencies are also, of course, representing travel suppliers, just like ad agencies, their job is to help figure out how to really get you where you want to go. And be your partner in thinking about where you want to go to and what would be the best way to get there and how to make it, especially if you're thinking about a complex trip. I mean, these days, we don't need travel agents for a lot of things, right? If you're just trying to get a flight from New York to Detroit, you probably don't need a travel agent. And by the way, if you're just trying to make a small improvement to your digital properties, you probably don't need a digital transformation agency either. But if I was planning, as I hope to do someday, like a safari to Africa with my family, or a safari in Africa, well, that's going to get a little complicated, figuring out where we want to go and what we want to book and what kind of tour guides we want to get, and really thinking about how to make that's a substantial journey. It's not just me flying to Detroit for a day on business. And so for that, I think I'd want a travel agent. And likewise with a digital transformation agency, because I'm going someplace I've never been. I don't really know the best way to get there. I don't really know all the problems I might encounter. Do I have visa issues I have to worry about? Will I speak the language? All those kinds of things. So I want someone who's been there. I want someone who's taken a lot of other people there, who understands how to plan a trip, who knows where the pitfalls are, who can help me even think about the right goals for my trip, the right duration, all those types of things. So to me, that's a better agency analogy for the kind of agency that I think a digital transformation agency should be. And of course, I would also say in the end, we're really the agency of the client. We're really the client's agent. We're there to help the client transform, to help the brand and the company transform more than to try to sell anything in particular. So I think it's important to ask yourself, so do you need one of these digital transformation agencies? I mean, you may not need one, as I said a moment ago. I'm not here to tell you that you need one. But when you are trying to embark on substantial transformation, there's a number of reasons why it can be helpful to bring an outside company in to help you. And as a digital transformation agency ourselves, we're kind of a blend of a consulting company and, like a digital shop, right? We both help with broad thinking and strategic ideation and facilitation and customer research, and really help come up with the big picture of where a company needs to go. And then we can help supply resources to get it done. And I think a lot of companies that label themselves digital transformation agencies probably do similar things. Of course, some may do them better, some worse. I'm not here to try to sell you on any particular company, but rather to just talk about the general idea. Obviously, in any category, whether it's cars or cans of soup or digital transformation agencies, you're going to find good ones and bad ones and all that kind of stuff. So here are some of the reasons why you might decide you want one, though, as opposed to either trying to do it yourself without the help of an outside agency, or relying on some other kind of company like your ad agency or somebody else that may be working with you, but may or may not meet all these needs. And I'm going to talk actually before we end today about how to pick your digital transformation agency. I'm going to talk about that on the next slide or a couple slides from now. And I want to emphasize that I don't even care what a company calls themselves. I don't care if a company calls themselves a digital transformation agency or calls themselves a consulting firm or even calls themselves an advertising agency. These are just labels. The real question is, what can they do for you? So here's some reasons why you might want to consider one. First of all, they can often provide you outside perspectives because they've worked with a lot of other companies. I know I myself have worked with many, many dozens of Fortune 1000 companies over my years, from General Electric to General Motors to Office Depot to major sports leagues to big media companies like NBC Universal. So I've seen, big insurance agencies, brokerages, Chase Manhattan Bank, Merrill Lynch. So I've seen a lot of stuff. And of course, it's not all applicable to any one company, but when you have that kind of breadth of perspective, and then you're working with one company, you have a lot of knowledge and experience to draw on. So hopefully, any digital transformation agency you're going to look at is going to bring that kind of knowledge to the table. Just like someone who's planning a trip to Africa will have been to a lot of parts of Africa, and can tell you, well, this part's different from that part. And here are some of the benefits of this way of going. And here are some of the benefits of that way of going, and help find what's going to fit best for you. In addition, they can provide you a little bit of an outside perspective. even if you have some of that knowledge. I mean, after all, you may have worked at other companies. This may not be your first job. If you're leading digital transformation, it's probably not. But it's helpful to have somebody who is not inside the company. There's an old cliche that, when you're inside the mayonnaise jar, it's hard to read the label. And sometimes it can be really helpful just to have an outside perspective. A digital transformation agency should be bringing you frameworks and methodologies. If you're trying to figure out, what your customers' greatest needs are, they should say, we have a model. These are the 6 things we always look at. Here are the 4 steps we follow. The whole point of having an outside agency is that you shouldn't have to reinvent the wheel to figure out what do you really need, what information do you need to know, what steps should you follow. They should have a proven set of frameworks and methodologies so that you can follow. Now, they may tailor it to your particular industry or your particular company. That's fine. But they should be bringing you an approach which is proven. And of course, many of you know I have a book out, Winning Digital Customers, which contains in it my company's approach to approaching digital transformation and all the different steps and phases of it, at least as detailed as we could put into a book. Of course, the actual knowledge we bring to it on a daily basis far exceeds what we can put even into a rather lengthy book. But your whatever agency you're looking to should have some kind of framework methodology. And I don't even care if it's unique to them. They could be using mine. And they could say, we follow Howard Tiersky's Winning Digital Customers methodology, as long as they sound like they have it and they understand it well and they're ready to execute, and preferably you're not the first company where they've used it, then that's fine. It's not important that it be a unique methodology. They may be using things like Agile and design thinking. That's totally fine. You're not looking for the travel agent that knows something that no one else knows. You're just looking for the one that knows what you need to know. They should also be able to provide independent facilitation. By that, I mean, there's probably politics involved in any kind of transformation, any kind of change. And it's good to have somebody who has people who have enough gravitas, enough experience, enough front of room presence that when you're bringing people together from different parts of the organization to brainstorm or to prioritize or to make decisions about budget or to address challenges or problems, they're outside the organization and can help facilitate conversations within areas of the organization because they don't have a stake in at least all the politics internal to the organization. Of course, they have a stake in doing a good job, and they have a stake in continuing to be employed and hired by your company as your outside agency, but they don't have that kind of internal stake the way that you might. If you're an executive in the company, someone might feel like, well, this guy's trying to get my turf, or she's angling for something that I can't agree with because that doesn't align politically for me. At least your external digital transformation agency should be able to provide you that kind of independent facilitation. In addition, be an independent voice to top executives. Now, this is one that I know sometimes drives people at my clients crazy, because sometimes my company will be brought in and we'll do an analysis and we'll say, this is what we recommend. We recommend investing $500,000 to make these technology improvements because it'll have this result. It'll improve the customer experience this way, and it will drive this bottom line result. And let's say the CEO or the CFO says, okay, thank you. I agree. You've convinced me. Thank you for this analysis. And we'll get out of that meeting and someone else will say, we told them the exact same thing 6 months ago, and they wouldn't listen to us. For some reason, sometimes companies put more stock in the opinions of an outside hired consultant than they do in their own employees, which I don't necessarily suggest is in any way a good thing. It's always nice to have that external validation. I don't support not having confidence and faith in your own people, but there's no denying, and I've seen this over and over and over, when you bring in an outside party to do an independent analysis, sometimes it's given more credibility. And right or wrong, when you're trying to get something done, when you're trying to get something approved, that's when it can be helpful to have that outside voice. The digital transformation agency should also be able to knit together the cross-channel picture. Most organizations operate in silos. There may be one team that's responsible for the store experience and another that's responsible for the web experience, or one team that's responsible for customer acquisition and another team that's responsible for merchandising, and another team that's responsible for fulfillment, or another team that's responsible for customer service. That's totally normal. And look, some of that is necessary because if you're going to run an organization, you have to divide things up and have teams working on different parts. I know of no other way to operate an organization at scale, but it creates problems as well, because sometimes everyone's looking at their own piece of the puzzle and not looking at the big picture. And your digital transformation agency should be able to come and think about the whole big picture, because the customer experiences the big picture. Your fulfillment people only do fulfillment all day long. They just work on that part of the conveyor belt, so to speak. But your customer goes through the whole process, from finding out who you are and looking at your advertising and going into your store and then using your app and then ordering something and then having a problem and calling customer service. That's how they experience it. So you need somebody from the outside who can help make sure that all these pieces are fitting together in a way that you're creating a good overall customer journey. And they should be able to help those different areas work better together, because once they start knitting things together, I can't tell you how often we come into an organization and we see ways that different parts of the organization should be communicating better, could be working together better, and they just don't see it because they're not focused on it. And we're able to be almost like a cross-pollinator. We're able to say to one part of the organization, hey, do you realize over here they're doing such and such, and that could benefit you? And these people might say, oh, no, that's great. And we'll say, well, do you know so-and-so who's the associate director of marketing in this product area? And the person might say, no, I don't. Can you give me their email? And it's kind of funny because I'm introducing people to each other who work at the same company, and I'm letting them know what's going on. But it's just because I am operating in a different role. I'm operating across parts of an organization. And very often there aren't that many people to do that inside. And then I can help, or our teams can help cross-pollinate and make sure that the areas of the organization are working together in the best possible way. And of course, your digital transformation agency should also be able to provide you just resources to get things done. You may have designers, UX people, developers, infrastructure people, but very often what happens is they're focusing on running your daily operation. And when you're trying to change, you're trying to transform, sometimes you need a surge of resources. Sometimes you say, well, normally we only need 20 developers in our company, or 200, or whatever the number is. But if we're going to make this big change in the next 6 months, I'm going to need an extra 100 developers just for the next 6 months to get it done. And then I won't need them anymore because we'll have completed this phase of the transformation. Or I might need people with different skills than the skills that my day-to-day team has, things like that. And so that's another area where your agency should be able to help you literally get things done, build an app, build a website, or whatever it may be, and have the additional surge of resources necessary to make sure that they can work hand in hand. But I also think collaboration is super important, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. So it's not about them doing it for you, but just being able to augment your capacity, because transformation often requires a temporary surge in resources, however long that period of time is. And lastly, I started by saying, why do you need one? But I want to end this slide by saying, why do you need one, right? Meaning not why do you need one at all, but why do you need to have just one? And I think it's really valuable for an organization to hire one company to be their digital transformation agency. And maybe when you look at some of these things that I've went over, you can already see why. Because of the ability to look at the full customer journey, because of this ability to cross-pollinate, because of this ability to facilitate, you don't want to have one digital transformation agency working with sales and another one working with fulfillment and another working with, merchandising, whatever else, because then you're not doing it in a unified way. Digital transformation really needs to be done with the whole customer life cycle, the whole kind of supply chain in mind. So I really recommend when you go out to pick a digital transformation agency, pick one. I'm going to give you some criteria to use to help you think about how to find the right one, but then try to pick one that you believe can handle your entire organization. You may have them start in just one area, that's fine, but ultimately the goal should be, this is one company that we believe can help us with our complete transformation. And I just want to emphasize, you are not hiring somebody or a company to do something for you, but with you. Only the organization can transform itself. An outside company, no matter how much you pay them, cannot come in and transform you. It's sort of like you can pay as much as you want to Weight Watchers or Tony Robbins or a psychologist or whoever, but if you want to make a change in yourself, if you want to quit smoking, or you want to get fit or lose 50 pounds or become more motivated or change your mood or your mindset, people can help you, but only you can really do it. And that's true of personal transformation, and it's also true of organizational transformation. So and that way, it's somewhat different from the way people sometimes think about an advertising agency. Some people say, we don't know advertising. We're going to hire this outside company. They know advertising. They're going to make our ads. They're going to decide where they run. Of course, we'll have to approve it. We'll be the client. But ultimately, they really see it as an outside entity that's going to do their advertising. And the only reason I mention advertising is because with that word agency, sometimes people kind of make that connection. But I think that, advertising is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about your whole company. This is the business that we're transforming. It's not just an external ad. And by the way, I do think that it's important for the business to really be engaged in their advertising. That's part of the customer journey and needs to be thought about in the context of a digital transformation. So I'm not saying it can be totally isolated, but certainly to the degree that advertising can be outsourced, and I'm not an advertising person, so that's not my main thing to talk about, but this can't. Because again, it's just like you can hire a stylist to do your clothes and decide what you should wear to make you look cooler, but you can't hire a stylist to make you cooler, to change your personality, right? That you have to do. And the middle bullet, which I didn't mention, but which is also, no matter how much the outside company you hire knows, no matter how expert they are, no matter how many companies they've worked with, you probably know your company best. And certainly the collective teams at your company, like for example, if you're new to your company, maybe you don't know your company that well, but the people, if you collect together the people who represent that legacy knowledge of your organization, who understand the customer, your customer, who understand your brand, who understand your products, you're always going to understand it better than an outsider. And so they bring a lot to the table, don't get me wrong, but your organization has to bring a lot to the table to actually make that transformation of your organization work. So how to pick one? As I mentioned earlier, don't worry about what they call themselves, whether they use the term digital transformation agency. That's just labeling. The question is, can they collaborate with you? And again, not do it for you. Can they collaborate with you to do a set of key things? And I'm going to end today by just going over what I think are the critical things that you need that digital transformation agency to be able to do. And what you need to do in assessing them is really ask yourself, can they do these things? And ask them, say, these are the things I need you to do. Tell me how you would do these things. Tell me where else you have done these things. And then obviously you need to be the judge on whether you feel that they're credible and whether you feel that their answers to the questions are good ones. But I can at least give you a model here for some of the things that you really want to ask about. And some of these are not things that you'll need in the first few weeks or even few months of working with your digital transformation agency. Some are, but some aren't. But that's another reason why you need to ask them all up front, because even if you're only going to start by hiring them to do a 3-month project, you want to try to pick a company that, assuming the project is successful, you can have a multiple-year relationship with, and they can really help you through the entire transformation, because a digital transformation is rarely a year, let alone 3 months. It's generally a multi-year process. And so in the ideal world, you find an awesome fit for your company and some organization who's really going to get to know you and know your brand and know your people inside and out and really help be your guide. Like that great travel agent who's planned your last 5 vacations, understands your family and understands what you care about, and can help even suggest new destinations. So every year you're getting better and better. So what are some of these things that you need to assess to determine whether this is the right digital transformation agency for you? What is it that they need to be doing for you? First of all, they have to be able to assess, where are you really right now? In other words, how successful or unsuccessful is your brand in the marketplace today? Where are you on a digital transformation journey? What's the quality of the key components that make up your digital infrastructure, like your technology, your data, your business processes, the fundamental business model that you're operating under, and how aligned it is with the digital world? They need to be able to give you just like if you went to the doctor and you wanted a comprehensive exam, they need to be able to look at every part of your organization, every part of how you do business, and be able to tell you where the greatest opportunities for change are. The next thing is they have to be able to develop a vision with you. They need to be able to facilitate the process and get the right people involved and have the right external knowledge of what technology is capable of doing and what your competitors are doing, and be able to create that no excuses vision for what your company will look like when it achieves true excellence in a digital age. Most companies today that weren't born in the digital age are still operating, and many statistics bear this out in terms of customer satisfaction in ways that are not elegant compared to the expectations of today's digital customer. People who shop on Amazon and use Uber to get around and those types of things. And so the goal of a digital transformation should be to catch up to that. Just like I said before, the definition of digital transformation, the digital transformation of the world and of your company. That digital transformation agency needs to be able to be the ones to help you create that vision that says, when we're fully caught up, it's going to look like this. And of course, you'll never really catch up because the world's going to keep changing and your vision's going to change and evolve over time too. So you'll probably never get to that exact vision, because by the time you're getting there, you'll evolve it. But still, They need to be able to create a clear vision, not just a general idea. If you've got an agency who's coming and saying, well, the main thing we need to do is, implement a new SAP system for you, or the main thing we need to do is just redesign the website. Apologize for the ringing phone there. Let me try to answer that and hang up on the spam call that I'm getting. Then you need to look for someone else. You need to look for someone who can create a compelling and preferably customer-oriented vision. In other words, how is it going to be different from a customer experience once you've completed this transformation? And how is that different customer experience going to lead to better outcomes? More loyal customers, bigger share of wallet, longer, better conversion of your customers, more awareness by your customers, more referrals by your customers, whatever those kind of key business metrics are for you. And next, they need to be able to assess, why are you not already there? In other words, most of the time, the vision of where your company goes is not going to be a complete epiphany to you. It's, some of it's going to be obvious, right? If you're asking your customers to wait on hold, if you're asking customers to fill out forms, if you're not asking, customers try to buy things and they're not in stock, or your website checkout process is confusing, those are things that probably have been noticed before. Most legacy organizations have awareness of a variety of ways, maybe not all the ways, but of a variety of the ways in which they're not really where they need to be. So if that's the case, why isn't it already fixed? There must be something in the way. Is it your technology system? Is it your organizational willingness to change? Is it the thinking about what the user interface should be? Is it politics that everyone's just doing this and so you can't make any progress? I don't know. But your agency needs to be able to go in and answer the question, if this is where you are and this is where you need to be, why are you not where you need to be right now? Because the reasons why you're not where you need to be, these are the challenges that digital transformation agency is going to need to help you overcome. And then they need to help you craft a bold but practical plan to get there. Over how much time, with how much investment do we need to get there? What are the risks that we face along the way? What are the potholes? We can see them. We use our knowledge of having done this before to say, yeah, it's probably not going to be a primrose path. If you've got a digital transformation agency saying this is going to be a slam dunk, no-brainer, easy process, I would question that opinion. Of course, maybe your company is an edge case, but otherwise, you're much better off with somebody who's going to say, look, there's a lot of risk here. There's a lot of challenges, but we have itemized those challenges and we have thoughts about how to minimize the risk. I'd much rather work with that company than the company that tells you what you want to hear and tells you it's going to be super easy. And then you get into it and then they're telling you, oh, bad news, every other week. They need to be able to help you build a case for change. It's one thing to create a vision and know where you want to go. It's another thing to get the organization aligned. They need to be able to do the financial case for change, the old 17x-tabbed Excel spreadsheet with the net present value of the investment you're going to make today, all those types of things. And they need to be able to create the emotional case for change, which is very often through storytelling, whether that's a video or a journey map, but things that can help people in the organization understand, all the way from the board or whoever has to approve the investments down to the people who are going to be dealing with getting the actual work done. They need to be able to help you communicate. And again, I keep saying to help you, and I know I don't know exactly who you are, but when I say you, I mean the leadership of the organization. I mean the key people who are helping drive the transformation, who are presumably hiring a digital transformation agency. They need to be able to figure out how to organize the teams and the work. That means their teams, because they're probably going to be bringing people to bear to get it done, but also your teams, because very often there's organizational change needed as part of digital transformation. New roles are needed that didn't exist before. You may want to structure teams differently to collaborate in different ways because the processes are changing or the technology is changing. So they need to have experience in thinking about that kind of organizational change component and be able to think with you about how to do that change within your organization. And then, as I said earlier, they just need to be able to help you on your journey, meaning their job is not done once you have a plan. They need to be with you and take accountability with you for the outcome. You don't want somebody who's going to say, well, listen, I gave you a really great PowerPoint deck and you guys just screwed it up. Sorry, you didn't get your outcome. I don't think that's the kind of company you want. And, I'll tell you a funny story. I often have come into companies where they say to me, they bring us in and they say, well, we just had a big, expensive consulting company here. And I don't want to pick on anybody. And as you'll see when I talk about this, it's really not a criticism. But they'll say McKinsey was just here and we paid them $1 million for a digital transformation strategy, or Bain or BCG or somebody like that. And they'll say to me, but first of all, they'll say, do you want to see the the $1 million, and what we don't, well, and they'll say, and what we got for $1 million was a PowerPoint deck, like a big, 200 slide PowerPoint deck. And they're like, would you like to see the 200 slide PowerPoint deck that we paid $1 million for? And I'm always like, hell yeah, I want to see the $1 million PowerPoint deck, And so I'll get a copy of it and I'll take it home and I'll read it. And 99% of the time, I always have the same reaction, which is that it is excellent. Excellent. When they go to these big companies and they pay these big dollars, they bring in smart people. And very often they've got outstanding research, outstanding ideas, outstanding thinking, outstanding plans, outstanding recommendations. I might not always agree with every single thing, but I always, or maybe there's been one or two exceptions, but by and large, have a very, very high respect for what I see in these deliverables. But what I hear from the client is they don't know what to do now. They paid all this money. They've got this big deck. It's been sitting, but nothing's happening. The company's not transforming, just because I buy you a map on how to get to California, that doesn't put you in California. So a digital transformation agency isn't just there to give you a map. And maybe that's where they differ from a travel agent, right? It's kind of like travel agent plus tour guide because your digital transformation agency needs to go on that journey with you. And they need to feel that it is their job to make sure we get that outcome. If they've created a case for change for you, where you go to your board of directors or your CEO and say, give me, and depending on the size of your company, it might be $1 million, it might be $100 million, I don't know. And I'm going to deliver this result for you. Then that digital transformation agency should be saying, we are here with you. We feel it's our obligation to make sure we've helped you make that promise and sell that. Now we have to help you figure out how we make sure that really happens, because it's never going to be easy. It's never going to be a primrose path, like I said earlier. So you want someone who's going to help you. They're going to take accountability and they're going to be with you for the long haul, however much you need them. Sometimes it might be a lot. Sometimes it might be less, but they're not there to say, here's your deck, here's my bill, and good luck. And I don't mean to say that these other companies that I've mentioned, that's necessarily their mindset. I'm caricaturing it a little bit, but well, anyway, that is the story I hear from clients very often. That is what happens, though, is that they pay big bills and they wind up with PowerPoint, and then they're left to their own devices to actually get somewhere. And then as well, they need to be able to define clear goals and measure them honestly, be helping you really ask the question each step of the way, how are we really doing? Not with the goal of always giving a rosy picture, but really honestly assessing, how are we doing on our path? Have we been hitting obstacles? Are we achieving our goals? Are we behind? What are the problems? Because you know what? It's mostly problems, guys. When you're doing digital transformation, there are going to be a lot of problems. The key is not to not have problems. That is not a practical plan. The plan is to see the problems quickly and deal with them when they're like Tony Robbins likes to say, kill the monster when it's young. When there's a problem, find it quickly and deal with it right away. Whether it's politics, budget, technology, whatever. So recognize those problems and help you correct. And lastly, they need to be fun to work with, because you're going to be working with them a lot. These are people that really need to be able to be your partners, that are going to be going through a lot of stuff with you, and they need to have, a mindset, and they need to vibe with you. They need to be people that you're going to enjoy working with, because you could be working with them for a number of years. And then you want to be in the trenches with them, solving problems, and then hopefully, celebrating over champagne at key milestones throughout the project with them where you have success. So that is what I wanted to tell you today. What is a digital transformation agency? Why would you want one? The fact that they're there not to do it for you, but to do it with you. And what are the key things that they really need to be able to do for you, so that when you're picking one, you kind of know what to be looking for. Just like if you were going to buy a car, you need to know the different things the car is supposed to do, not just drive, but also, I don't know, have a good entertainment system, GPS system, comfortable seats, whatever the criteria. I'm trying to give you here some of the things that you need to be asking yourself as you're talking to whatever digital transformation agency you're considering to work with. And of course, we are one, so always happy, to talk to anybody who's interested in talking to us from the Digital Transformation Agency. You can, of course, find us at from.digital or just Google us. And of course, many of the issues that I talk about here are covered in my book in much greater detail. So you can absolutely check out Winning Digital Customers, find that on Amazon, or we may put the URL up for you. And check that out as well, because it contains a lot more detail about the actual work of digital transformation. So I hope this has been useful for you. You can apply it. If you have any questions, put them in the chat, even if it's a replay. We do watch those chats at least for a few weeks after these live casts go live, because sometimes people ask questions after, and we will try to get back to you. And I hope you do find yourself a great digital transformation agency, because I've seen over and over what a difference that can make. I have to tell you, some of the greatest, most meaningful experiences, professional experiences in my life have been by companies who brought us in to really help them transform. And we can look back after a couple of years. And, it's like that experience of climbing a mountain. It can be tough. It can be tiring. You get dirty. Sometimes you scrape yourself. You're waking your way up these trails and you're pushing the brushes out of your way. But all of a sudden, after a couple of hours, you get to a clearing and you look down and you realize how far you've come, and it's an amazing experience when you see the difference in the business and the difference in the customer satisfaction. All the way back to years and years ago, I worked with General Motors, and they brought my team and I in to help with the fact that J.D. Powers had rated them at the very bottom of customer satisfaction in terms of their online customer experience. And we did all kinds of workshops and digital strategy and all kinds of stuff with them. And I'm not going to get into detail now, but I think it was maybe 2 years later, and they were at the top of the J.D. Powers customer satisfaction ratings. And that was just a moment, to realize that all those daily struggles and daily challenges, and sometimes it can feel like you're in meetings and it's an hour of your life you'll never get back and all that kind of stuff. But then all of a sudden you realize what you've accomplished, and it's an amazing feeling. So I hope you find an awesome company to work with. I hope these criteria are helpful to you. And again, as always, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.